Pittsburgh Steeler fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman of the Steel Curtain Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. You'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming weeks. No Dave Schofield. He is on vacation, drink. And I'm joined by just Bryan Anthony Davis. It's not just Bryan Anthony Davis, but the Bryan Anthony Davis. What's up, Bryan?
Hey, I appreciate that, Jeff. It is great to be with you on this night. Goes back to my podcast roots, starting off with Jeff Hartman and the Blog Talk Radio days. It's a lot of fun. I miss Dave because I always will. He's my big buddy. And so I was looking like crazy, for on vacation for a soundbite. And he didn't do it at the beginning of all of his shows. And I think out of spite, because we badgered him so much.
I gave him too much crap about it. That's
because I was going to keep playing on our show on vacation. I was going to do that. But I got to do this because maybe about 2.5 years ago, you made me mad once. You don't make me mad often, but you made me mad.
I make you mad all the time. It's just not from the podcast stuff. It's business stuff.
Yeah, I know. So I got to do this. Dave's at the beach. Imagine Dave in Speedos. That's payback, Jeffrey.
Oh, Dave's watching somewhere and he's shaking his head, yelling at us probably. But anyways, well, it's one of those days where you wish there was something to talk about regarding the black and gold, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Man.
Yeah, there's just no news. What are we kidding? There's so much stuff going on right now. This has been a very eventful free agency period so far. But before we even talk about the players, the official signings, which happened today, Thursday, just what's your overall take on free agency thus far? They're not done yet, but what's your takes thus far?
He's on a roll. I mean, he's doing something. And, we're going to find out whether these guys are good in stadium, like Mike Tomlin always says. But being aggressive and out there and making moves, and we've known from everything that this man has done that he does his homework. He doesn't do anything on a whim. So when we were at Monday and everybody was complaining right away that these guys aren't busy, they're letting the whole free agency get away, he was sitting back, boys, you just wait, I'm getting started. And that's basically what Omar Khan is doing. So I trust what he's doing. I know he's got a lot of aces up his sleeve. He's ready to go. But I'm going to say one thing. It's not exactly fair to compare him to Kevin Colbert, or fair to Kevin Colbert to compare him to him, because this is just a new NFL. This NFL free agency doesn't even look like it did 4 years ago to me.
It's one thing I've noticed is the duration of contracts certainly has changed a lot. You said, to me, I don't know, Bryan, you might disagree. To me, it seems like you see a lot more 2-year deals, less 4-year deals, or, long-term contracts. I remember that being almost the norm, where they would almost have those long-term deals. They want to lock a player up for the long term. Not really that way anymore with the Steelers, especially the Steelers. Really the 2-year deal, 3-year max. Very rare unless it's someone like TJ Watt or Minkah Fitzpatrick that they're trying to lock up for the long term. You see it the same way?
Yeah, absolutely, because everything has changed. You would have never seen a Zeke Elliott getting released. You would have never seen somebody complaining like Tyreek Hill last year, and he complains one day, 2 days later, he's gone. He's traded. So they're just not messing around anymore. These players are more mobile than ever. And I think that's just really in the last 2 years or so, it's gotten crazy.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people, when they looked at the Steelers approach, they looked at the Steelers approaching their free agency stint. Obviously, they have to be cap compliant by the 13th. I'm sorry. Was it the 13th or 15th? That's the 15th, I think. They have to be cap compliant. Everyone's like, man, they're over the cap. Well, we knew William Jackson III was going to get cut, and he did. That freed up $12 million. But then they spend that quickly. And all of a sudden, that space that was about $10 million because they were a little bit over the cap prior to that release of Jackson. How are they going to make any more moves? They start making more moves. Well, what they do is they restructure Minkah Fitzpatrick on Thursday morning. And then we find out they cut Myles Jack. Saves them $18 million total between the $10 million in Minkah, $8 million with Myles Jack. Were you surprised with the Miles Jack cut, Bryan?
Yes and no. I was surprised because at the time I was thinking, who are they going to bring in? Because you lose Spillane, no way are you thinking that Jack's going to be gone. But they knew they were going to bring in Cole Holcomb. Well, they did before Miles Jack, and then a Landon Roberts happened right around the same time. I just thought this is a guy that you give an extra year to. You maybe restructure him. You do something, but Kevin Smith, and he's going to talk about it tomorrow on Here We Go, the Steelers show. You got to check this out because he's saying that every single move that the Steelers are making on both sides of the ball mean that they are going for toughness. And, it's no surprise that, one of the raps on Miles Jack, one of the raps on what's his name, Devin Bush Jr. I'm
Yep.
already forgetting him, and he might be back. Who knows? But I still don't think he's back. But what I'm saying is they play a softer brand of ball. Now, this doesn't talk about their toughness, but it's just their approach. It's not as aggressive. It's kind of a more relaxed approach, is what I'm trying to say. And Kevin's going to explain it a whole lot better than me. But they're getting tougher on, especially on defense.
Well, and that's an Andy Weidel thing. Andy Weidel comes in, he's bringing in Nate Herbig, which was one of his guys from Philadelphia, re-signing Larry Ogunjobi, the inside linebackers. Talk about, they always say the cupboard's bare. The cupboard got completely swapped is what happened. I mean, Devin Bush is meeting with Seattle, I heard. Good luck. Robert Spillane goes to the Las Vegas Raiders on, I believe, a 2-year deal.
That was the biggest surprise, I think.
Was it really?
Yeah,
For you?
Yeah,
okay.
for me.
I was surprised he signed so fast. It was pretty early in free agency, but hey, he got a deal that he liked. And so Spillane's gone. Bush is gone. Now Miles Jack's gone. You're wondering, who do they have? Well, now they have Mark Robinson, Cole Holcomb, and this Elander Roberts.
Landon.
I'm sorry, Elandon Roberts. And I didn't know much about either of these guys. I'm learning about them as you all learn about them because I know the Steelers. Like, that's kind of it. But they're definitely, like you said, there's a change in demeanor. There is a change in demeanor. It's exciting to see. And this is an exciting time. Well, let's get this super chat up here first. Frank Bennett gives us $5. What do you think of Patrick Peterson signing? Upgrade or no? Well, let's start there, Bryan. Patrick Peterson. That was the first signing the Steelers had after losing Cam Sutton. What were your thoughts? You haven't done a show since that signing. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. And I'm always swaying on the brighter side of life, and I'm optimistic about a lot of these picks, and then I apologize later for being wrong. But I love Patrick Peterson for a lot of things. I love the fact that he's a leader. I love the fact that his numbers, and somebody in our Slack channel broke it down, the numbers of the entire career of Cam Sutton based on the last 3 years. I think it was the last 3 years of Patrick Peterson, and Peterson basically had him. He's one of those guys like a Joe Hayden where you're still going to get a lot of production out of him at a later age. And I love it. If he goes 2 years, I might be shocked because it's just the way of the NFL right now. But I think he's the perfect guy to bring in. It kind of shows me that in the top 32 picks, they're going corner somewhere. And that's what that tells me. But if you really want to find out a lot about him, we're getting rave reviews from last night's curtain call where the guys brought in from the Vikings, from our new FFSN affiliate, which is First and School. David Stefano came in and people loved this guy. And they're like, that is a great guest. So, and he talked about, he called me as soon as they signed him. They said, you're going to love this. You are absolutely going to love this. Congratulations, because we're going to miss him.
So Thursday, today, Patrick Peterson, Nate Herbig. I don't think Holcomb was in to sign his contract. Those were official.
Yeah, he signed.
Holcomb didn't. I don't think he met with the media, though. I think it was just Herbig and Peterson. And did you get to listen to that Patrick Peterson interview by chance, Bryan?
I did not. And that's
well,
I'm waiting to cue all those things up.
He said a couple things that were the first thing that stood out to me is they kind of asked him about his relationship with Mike Tomlin because obviously he's cousin with Bryant McFadden. That's his cousin. He does a podcast with him. Obviously, he spent time in Pittsburgh, and he said, "Hey, we were close to having a deal done last year." I'm like, wait a second, what? He made it sound like he had talked to Grady Brown, the defensive backs coach, Mike Tomlin, that they were working on getting him to Pittsburgh last season, and they didn't get a
Wow.
deal done. So I was like, wow, that must have been a trade. I wonder what was on the table. That was really news to me. And then on top of that, he talked about how he's been clamoring for coaches to allow him to do things that are a little bit different, meaning he wants to do different things. He's not one of those cornerbacks that says, well, you know what? I can only play man coverage. I'm only a zone guy, or I only play outside. He goes, no, move me wherever. I'm a valuable piece. Like, use me as such. I heard that. I'm like, that is what I want to hear. Put him in the slot, move him at safety if you need to sometimes. The guy's smart enough to do it. And so when I heard those things first, the whole, maybe it was just blowing smoke. I don't know. But ultimately when he said, yeah, we tried to make it happen last year and we couldn't happen, I was like, wow,
No, that's news.
that is news. And that wasn't a press conference. That wasn't on the podcast with Bryant McFadden. That was in a press conference. Like, well, that's something for me personally. But Patrick Peterson, I think that, the question was, and the super chat asked, was it an upgrade or is it a downgrade? And Frank is the one that asked that. And he even says in the live chat, he's going to be 33 to start the season. Yeah, he talked about that. And he said, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not going to be able to run with these outside, these wide receivers the entire game anymore. But that doesn't mean he can't play. When I compare the value with him and Cam Sutton, if I have to pick an upgrade or a downgrade, I'm going to take an upgrade based on the ball skills, based on the experience, the veteran savvy. Even if it's just 1 or 2 years, I think it's an upgrade. The only downgrade is age. That's it. Like that's the only value that Cam Sutton brings, in my opinion, that Patrick Peterson doesn't. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's it. It's age. You would have loved to have had him last year. You would have loved to have had him 4 years ago. This is a guy that has been on my Steeler wish list for a long time. I'm glad he's here, but yeah, that's really the only downgrade. And somebody on our Slack channel, I think it was Bradley, was mentioning that, hey, the Pro Football Focus, was it PFF? Yeah, the PFF grades have got to be wrong, but I don't think they are. And he graded last year a whole lot better than what Cam Sutton graded. And so what you're going to find out, what makes this such a good deal, though, is the fact that you're going to find out how good Terrell Austin is. And he got masked a lot. How he was masked was the fact that a lot of people thought that Brian Flores had a lot to do with everything. No, but remember, this guy was the defensive coordinator, and he was also the defensive coordinator when that defensive backfield started to get better just a couple years ago. So not defensive coordinator, he was the defensive backs coach. So he is really going to be able to go ahead and allow Patrick Peterson to do what he wants to do, to go ahead and make up for that age by moving him around and not getting him stuck on an island. You can't put him on P2 Island. He's not that player anymore.
Now, something you said a little bit earlier was about how it seems like the Steelers are destined to take a cornerback in the NFL draft. I would agree. Think about this Patrick Peterson signing. And let's assume he stays for both years of the contract. And he even admitted this is probably his last contract, that after this, he's probably done. So let's say he signs for 2 years. He lives out the contract. And let's say they draft a Joey Porter Jr. What if this one contract, and yes, some might say it's a downgrade from Cam Sutton, but what he passes on to the next player, that Joey Porter Jr., lasts an entire career. Like, think about it from that perspective. Like, this can be more than just on-field production. This could be teaching a young man how to do his job at a high level, teaching him his craft, all those things. That could be a part of this that a lot of fans don't want to even consider based on the fact that it doesn't necessarily equate to interceptions or tackles and things like that, even though he got 5 last year anyways. So, okay. I don't want to talk a lot about Patrick Peterson, even though it's worthy of it. Outside of returning players, Devontae Casey, Larry Ogunjobi, DeMonte Casey reported 2-year deal. Larry Ogunjobi reported 3-year deal. I don't want to talk about them. We know a lot about them. However, what free agent acquisition that wasn't Patrick Peterson excited you the most?
Well, I've got to actually say Landon Roberts, because I've been following him for the last couple years. I wanted him to come in last year, and I actually thought he was going to be a possibility last year because of his connection in two places, not just one, but in New England, in Miami with Brian Flores. And I thought he was the kind of guy. He has always been a very tough linebacker to me, and he's made life rough for the Steelers in a lot of those games in the last couple years, with both Miami and with Pittsburgh, with New England. But the more that I look at Nate Herbig, I'm getting excited because
Nasty Nate.
Yeah, I saw where you called him Nasty Nate, and so this guy's like, I don't care where I play, I'll punt if you need me to. That's what you want to hear. This guy, he does have that mean streak. I heard, him being equated to a better version of BJ Finney. And BJ Finney was pretty good for what he was there for.
BJ Finney wasn't 6'4", 300 pounds.
Yeah, and this guy has much longer arms than BJ Finney had.
But you have BJ Finney's pants.
Yes, well, I'll go steal Nate Herbig's pants if that's what I have to do. And you know what? I think they might end up wearing. He'll probably end up wearing 67 as well. So
you think?
Yeah, probably.
You heard but Patrick Peterson's wearing. You saw that, right?
20, right?
He's wearing 20. Yes, his cousin's old number.
Ah, okay. I didn't equate that because I thought he'd end up with either 2 or 5.
Well, you can't give him Mason's number. Come on now.
Oh, yeah, you're.
Can't give him Michael Vick's number.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that Brian St. Pierre legacy is really good, and don't forget. I think one of those bad kickers. Yeah, Todd Peterson wore number 2.
Yeah, he did. He did say, he goes, they asked him what number. There's been a lot of talk about what number you're going to be. He said right off the bat in the press conference, well, I already know that 7's not available. Does that matter to you? It mattered to me. I said this on my show on Wednesday. I was asked about it in the mailbag on Let's Ride. And someone said, do you care? I actually do. I don't know why. It doesn't matter, but I actually do. I didn't want him wearing 7. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I don't care, but it's the legacy of those numbers with the fact that you're not giving them out. That's something that's pretty special. And so I'm going to have this this weekend, and this was going to be my trivia question. Nah, actually, I'm going to save it for my trivia question. But there was a case where another player wanted, and this was years ago, the coach almost gave it to him, but Dan Rooney stepped in and said no. And so we're going to go ahead and do that a little bit later for trivia.
Okay. I like what Drunk Turkey Show says. Herbig sounds like a 2 a.m. story. Kind of does.
Do you know who Drunk Turkey Show is?
No.
It's Daniel J. That's a great show, by the way.
So he was in here as the State of the Steelers.
Yeah, I guess he switched over because unless I'm mistaken, that's supposed to be Daniel J.
Okay, that's fine. And here, let me ask you this. What do you think Nate Herbig signing means for, and I'll bring this up here on Facebook, Sherry Richards. Kendrick Green, welcome to the season-long and active list. That would be for a second year in a row, Sherry. What does this mean for Kendrick Green, Bryan?
He's cheap enough to keep around and keep inactive if they want to. But I'm not sure if he sticks around. But don't be surprised if he does, because he's only a 30-year player. He's not making that much. I could probably think that he might stay, but not play.
It'll be interesting. And I don't know how they're going to spin this unless J.C. Hassenauer wasn't tendered as a restricted free agent. So maybe they're thinking Kendrick Green is the that J.C. Hassenauer type backup. I don't want him snapping the football. I'll tell you that right now. But I don't know. We'll see.
Was he terrible at snapping the football? Was there a lot of loose? I mean,
no, he was just bad at playing center.
Oh yeah, okay. I get that. I was picturing like balls flying all over the place.
Oh my gosh, Captain Underpants. No, he lost. He said he lost his Twitter account. That's why that's why I only had like 25 questions on the mailbag, is because he wasn't able to chime in. Hopefully you get your Twitter back. Captain Underpants.
Captain he's a great one.
Yes,
Love
for
Captain.
sure. For sure. All right, let's you know what? Let's take a quick break. When we get back after this break, we're going to talk about some players that are gone and what might be next for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll be right back after this break. All right, Steeler fans, we're back and we're talking free agency. This is a fun time of year. It really is. It's one of those things where I get, like you said, Bryan, I get excited. I'm watching Nate Herbig and Patrick Peterson standing up there talking about how great the Steelers organization is and how much they love Mike Tomlin. And Patrick Peterson said his favorite Tomlinism is it's a big game because we're in it. That's his favorite Mike Tomlinism. So I can't argue with that one, although painting barns red is my favorite. But so this is exciting, but would you tell fans to kind of temper expectations a little bit for these guys?
Yeah, you know what? Here's a Tomlinism. It's what happens in stadium. Yeah. And so, temper expectations. But what you're hearing, one of my favorite things was noticing that the Washington Commanders sites were like, oh, man, they liked this guy. They liked Cole Holcomb. And then you see how nasty the Herbig, I'm going to call him Herbie, how nasty Herbie's going to be. So you got to like it. I know a lot about Landon Roberts. I know a lot about Patrick Peterson. So, yeah. But this is when you look around at other teams, all 31 teams, they're making moves like this. You had the show today about with the guy with Kyle and Greg, what Ian's talking about. And they're like knowing the knockoffs. Some of these guys are considered knockoffs, but man, I've got a closet full of jerseys over there that are knockoffs that look pretty darn good when I wear them. And everyone said, where did you get that? And I'm like, I didn't get it on NFLshop.com for $250. I got it off the boat for $20. And
off the boat.
So, so really, and they work. They've got Nike tags. So these guys have NFL tags. They're NFL players. And when you're put in the right system with the right players, and I think the environment with guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, I'm talking about the defense, TJ Watt, having those guys around, it's a good environment for these guys to come in. Now you add Patrick Peterson. He's an environment guy. He never played for the Steelers. He was drafted in 2011. It doesn't matter. He's going to come in and command attention. And when I say attention, their attention to teach him. And he's going to be a company guy from day one. He already is.
So Dwayne, because you brought up jerseys, said, let me find out you got a Bubby Brister jersey stashed.
I want the Bubby one, but it's got to be right. And they're hard to get. I have a duck, which is really... I have a Duck Hodges, so I've got that number 6.
That's not the worst jersey you have, though. I guarantee you have a worse one than Duck Hodges. Duck had some good moments.
I think Jarvis Jones might be my worst, but I also have
you probably have a Senquez Golston, I bet.
I don't, but I should just to wear on the show. But and I love that Kyle Kreis wears Orpheus Roy. I love that. That's it's number 71. That's a great jersey. But I think the weirdest one I have is it's probably Richard Huntley.
Oh, wow.
But that was a Value City. That was a Value City like $7 back in 1999. So
still counts. That's fine. That's fine. All right. Let me ask you a quick question before we talk about what's next. Between the two players that were retained, meaning the DeMonte Casey, Larry Ogunjobi, again, not official yet. All right. They're not official yet. Which one do you think is more important to the Steelers defense?
I'm going to give a Dave answer. I can't. They're both. They're both huge.
No,
okay, you know what?
Okay, give me a freaking answer.
All right, KZ.
Oh, why?
Because you don't know if Terrell Edmunds is back yet. Now, Kevin and Dave both think that this signing of Roberts and letting go Jack means that Edmunds is actually going to be back for a lot of what you can do. But if he's not back, you need him to be Robin. And I always talk about Robin to make us Batman. So that's important. I think Larry O is very important to this team, but I like what DeMarvin Leal is doing. There's nothing there's nothing waiting in the wings at safety that makes you think that there's an up and comer. So if they might have to spend a draft pick on a safety as well if they don't get Edmonds back. So with that was a freak injury last year with the broken arm, but you really need to have a guy like KZ back there, and I trust KZ.
I agree with everything you said, and it is a difficult question. They're both very important. I always said that the Steelers are going to prioritize the safety that they want to keep. They did that. It's DeMonte KZ. That doesn't mean they're shutting the door on Terrell Edmonds' return, but I think Larry Ogunjobi was more important. We know from 2021 what this run defense could look like, and that's like a sieve. Not good.
Yeah, that's true.
And Larry Ogunjobi, even banged up last year, was a step in the right direction. He's not the answer like a Stephon Tuitt, but he is very valuable. If he's not there, boy, with that cupboard, I talked about cupboards being buried inside linebacker. Defensive front would be really, really thin. Loudermilk, we'd be leaning on him, DeMarvin Leal. I don't think those players are ready for that.
You don't think DeMarvin is?
No, he's a different type of player.
Okay.
I think DeMarvin is more, and this is something that I think it was Andrew Wilbar, because I was asking about a prospect from Wisconsin that the I think it's Keanu Benton from Wisconsin that the Steelers really like, and they're not hiding it. And I said, what's it like between he and Leal? Like, compare him. He said, like, Leal's more of an edge guy, not an outside linebacker, but he plays more D end. Larry O is more of an interior guy. That's what they need. They need an Isaiah Loudermilk to step the hell up this year and be a really good force and a rotational piece. Be the Tyson Alualu type. That's what they need from Isaiah Loudermilk. So I'll take Larry O there. You'll take DeMonte KZ, and that's fine. We'll agree to disagree.
But I'm not giving any of those guys up. I'm not giving Larry O. I'm not giving Larry O up.
No, for sure. No way. All right, we got another super chat from Frank. Frank Bennett gives us $5. Thank you very much, Frank, for the tips. We do appreciate it. He said, do you see the Steelers re-signing Bud Dupree for a discount to add depth behind Alex Highsmith? Now, this is going to be the next question I was going to bring up, which is, what do you think is going to happen next? I mean, they're not done. If they're done, I would be absolutely stunned if they were finished. What do you think is the next move?
I really think that very well could be the next move right there. But I think tight end is another move as well. But I think edge rusher, you saw what happened when you have nobody helping out when TJ Watt goes down. That season ended. Can you imagine what maybe TJ being there? Do you think it could have given them 3 more games? I think so.
Season?
Yeah.
Winning
3 more wins?
More? I mean, you think about games. I think about games like down in Miami, where you wonder if they could just have that one play, that sack on a third down, or the strip sack, or the batted pass, or hell, the interception. He's done a lot of that.
Jets
I don't
game.
know, but yeah, there's at least 2.
Even if it's 2, Jeff, then
they're in the playoffs.
They're a 13-6. No, wait, that's wrong. 11-6 team.
Yeah.
11-6, and then you're feeling a whole lot better about that team. So that tells me you got to take care of edge rusher for depth, but you've got to bring the right guy in. I did not say this earlier when we were talking about Patrick Peterson. Patrick Peterson's a rock guy. He knows his role and shuts his mouth. You did not get that when you brought in Melvin Ingram III. He did not know his role. He knew the expectations. He listened to everything that they said and agreed to get that contract. But once he got it, he wasn't happy. So, I mean, basically he wasn't truthful with the Steelers. Even though I'm not privy to being a fly on the wall, I'm just saying he probably said the right things. And then when he was there, he kind of forced a trade, and you needed that guy. You needed that depth. And if you're going to bring in a guy with Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt, there's a possibility that they're going to play and they're going to be needed and to be rotated out to give those guys a breather. But you've got to know your role and know that you're a number 3 and be fine with it. And so that's what they have in Patrick Peterson. They need that know your role guy for edge rusher, and you have to have it. I think it's imperative.
No, I think you're right. And they have to have that mindset. And I don't know what Bud Dupree's mindset would be, if I'm being completely honest. Josina Anderson of ESPN, or maybe formerly of ESPN, I don't know. Not that it matters. She said that the Steelers are interested. They're wondering about his health. And that's everyone was going to be concerned about his health. The Steelers aren't going to overpay, though. So Frank, who gave us the super chat and brought up this topic, said, do you think he would take a hometown discount? I don't think he will. He still wants to be paid. I don't think the Steelers, if this is a signing they make, I don't see it coming in the near future. But at the same time, I've been wrong plenty of times. I'd love to see Bud Dupree back if he can buy into the system like you talked about, Bryan, and if he's healthy and at the right price. I feel like what I just said, those 3 consecutive things, is asking a lot. So I'm not sure if that is what is actually going to happen. So what do you think would be next if it's not Bud Dupree? What do you think is the next move for the Steelers?
Tight end.
You think Gentry, or you think someone else?
Either or, and I know that's a cheap answer. I actually think he's not gone. I think it's Foster Moreau if Gentry leaves. But I know that's one of those things they do need to clear that up. I don't think they're ready. I don't think they view Connor Hayward as that blocking time that they need, and he's not even close. So when I look at the gold standard of blocking tight ends for the Steelers, I think of a guy like Matt Spaeth. I think of a guy like Preston Gothard. Those guys and Preston Gothard had to be thrown in the late 80s as a starting tight end because they had nothing. But I think of those guys that they're like middle relievers. They're very important to have there. They're going to catch a ball when you really need it, but most of the time you need them blocking and keeping guys safe. Gentry's important. If it's not Gentry, it would be a guy like Foster Moreau. I could see that him coming in, but it's got to be taken care of. Maybe that's a next week, but I think that's something they're going to look at. I also think there's going to be another wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver, like a Marvin Jones or somebody like that, to do exactly what Patrick Peterson's going to do for the defensive backfield. A guy like that would be great for that wide receiver room.
So say that name again, because I was going to say wide receiver. That's not what I have next. I do have veteran wide receiver on my list. Say those names again about the wide receivers that you think they might be able to bring in.
I just said a Marvin Jones. We talked about that last week on the show. I think an older guy, because I go back to this, Jericho Cotchery. You need
Jarvis
a Jericho
Landry?
Cotchery. Jarvis Landry, yeah. But the thing with Jarvis Landry's not a locker room guy. And if they sign him next week,
I'll tell you one. Go ahead.
If they sign him next week, I'm going to say buyer beware, because he's one of those red butt kind of guys that gets irritated easily. And you already have Deontay Johnson, who should be the leader of that room, and he's not. He is definitely not a leader. He needs to be on the team. I'm not saying he doesn't need to be on the team. He's valuable to that team, but you need a guy in to help out and solidify that room. Like Peterson's going to be on the other side. Jarvis Landry would be good for that team, but Jarvis Landry could be a guy like LeGarrette Blount that just gets irritated really quick.
For me, Jarvis Landry did not have this reputation in Miami at all. It wasn't until he went to Cleveland and he got disgruntled, which I got to be honest, I'd be disgruntled there too.
Yeah.
And, New Orleans, he was hurt. So I don't know if I'll give you a name. I just don't think they'd be able to afford him. Give me Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he would cost a lot, but I'd love it.
He would cost a lot, but you talk about a guy that wants to play in the slot and he's fine doing it.
Yeah.
You have George Pickens and Deontay Johnson out there too. It's a hell of a trio.
Oh, yes. I would love that.
Yeah. Come on, con artist. Do something, will you?
Yeah, come on. Get out of the country club in that.
No.
I changed it. I changed it a little bit.
Do that. No, it's not good.
No,
You
that was
can do
better.
Dusty. That's your opinion. You can do Dusty Rhodes until you are blue in the face.
All right. All right, Daddy. I'm telling you, get out of the country club. Hot times.
Hot times, Daddy. All right. I'll tell you what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next is they're going to sign Trell Edmonds. That's
You
what's
know
going to
what?
happen next.
Yeah, I can
That's
see
the
that.
next move. And everyone's, I think there's a lot of people that might say, well, what about the offense? Well, they brought in Nasty Nate. And I don't know if the offense needs anything else. You said tight end, and I agree with that, but that's not a pressing need. I don't think that's what's going to happen next. I think they're going to go after, if they could get, in my opinion, if they could get Terrell Edmonds locked up, I'm pretty freaking stoked about the defense heading into the draft. You agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I really am. And I think the guys they have guys that can sit and stay. They can redshirt guys when they bring, if it's a Trenton Simpson at inside linebacker,
Yeah.
if it's a Kalijah Clancy or Clancy, if it's a guy like that, or Joey Porter Jr., any of the defensive backs, they'll sit, but they'll stick and they'll stay, and that'll be great. But you mentioned the offensive side of the ball. I can't wait to see what they do. And they have a luxury at backup quarterback right now. They really do. I don't think they need both of those guys. But if you go ahead and think that Landry Jones, excuse me,
Don't do that.
if you think that Mason Rudolph is that guy that could back up and you're fine with it, then you're going to clear some space with Mitch. And for all of us that thought there's no way they're going to cut Mitch, you just saw today with Miles Jack.
Yeah. It's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'll tell you a player who got cut today, who I'd say, hey, we need a third quarterback, is Brian Hoyer.
Oh, yeah. Hoyer's
Brian
been
Hoyer,
here.
he got cut by the Patriots.
I like him.
Hey, Brian, we need a third quarterback. You're going to come on the cheap. You've had a lot of experience. You've played in this league. If we would need you to come in, you'd be more than willing to do it. And you'd
And
be
he played
more
in
than
the city.
capable. Yeah. So come on back. Let's go. Let's do it. I would make that call right now. But I'm not Omar Khan. Let's get this super chat here. Degeneration X, $5 says the Denver Broncos cut Ronald Darby. He was a good cornerback until he tore his ACL. Do you think Mike Tomlin would be interested in a player like that? So I don't know what. So he had an ACL. That's significant. It's not a guarantee to come back from that. Did he play last season, and did he play the whole season? And was he just not effective? Like I don't know much about the situation to be able to give my take, really. Do you know, Bryan?
I actually don't. I'm not really good with that. So I just don't have a good answer for that right now.
Yeah, that's okay. Ronald Darby. I mean, I don't think Mike Tomlin's opposed to bringing in high pedigree players as long as they're healthy. That is one thing I think that Mike Tomlin was burned on early on. I think that Ladarius Green issue just really haunted this team for a while. Not that it was it was a free agent pickup. It wasn't like it was a trade and they lost a lot of draft capital, but they paid a lot of money for that guy and he just was never healthy. You think about Morgan Burnett, same guy, came in,
I was
got hurt.
excited about Morgan
So
Burnett.
was I. So I think that if there's someone that has, and this is why I have a pause about Bud Dupree. If they have an inkling that he's not healthy, I don't think they're going to pull that trigger. Because he was not the same when he definitely wasn't the same in Tennessee that he was in Pittsburgh.
No.
Maybe that's the situation. Maybe it's just he was still banged up because people forget he tore his ACL in 2020. So that's tough. That's really tough. So, all right. Good stuff. Free agency. Man, I love it. I love it. You say you have trivia, right?
Yeah, I actually do. So I'm going to do the one that I kind of teased. So back in the Bill Cowher era, they picked up a very good free agent and actually one of my favorite Steelers free agents. He was a running back and he came over and said, guys, I've had 32 for about 10 years. I want to wear number 32. And Bill Cowher said, well, let me see what I can do. Goes to Dan Rooney. Dan Rooney shut it down. He said, nope, that's Franco's number. But Dan, it's not retired. It's Franco's number now. And so this player ended up wearing number 34, was a very valuable member of this team. in the mid 90s. Who was it?
Gosh, I could name off a bunch of 34s, but it's not going to be the right one. So
No,
I
no,
don't know.
I'm sorry. No, it wasn't 34. It was 22. I apologize. It was number 22.
That still doesn't help.
But it was right during your fandom when it started, and he was very
22.
valuable to this team. A
He's
running back,
a
but more of
running
a
back?
fullback. More of a fullback.
Yeah, no clue. Who is it?
I love John L. Williams.
Oh, okay.
John L. was
That
one of
was
my
early
guys.
on in my fandom. That was early on in my fandom. Yeah.
94, 95.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. I remember a lot of the players, but not like I do the team now. I didn't know the bottom of the roster guys or the fullback. I mean, I just followed the football back then.
So yeah, Bill was trying, and that was a really good free agent pickup. He did a lot of good things here as a fullback, but he carried the ball and caught the ball a lot.
Yeah. Oh, Dave Schofield chiming in on vacation. Drink, everybody.
Hey.
You said 34. I'm trying to think of some of the, like, D'Angelo Williams comes to mind. Veron Haynes comes to mind. Trying to think what
Well, Mendy.
oh, I try to forget that.
That's right.
He had some good years. I think he gets a bad rap. I think he does, and it was more for his off-field stuff after he left the
Yeah.
team.
He also got hurt, and that was it. But he did not have that desire. That's why he quit a whole lot earlier, and he
Yeah.
was fine with it. But that's a guy that injury killed him. I still will say this, and I don't want to get into all this. I'm an apologist for him because I don't know how you survive getting sandwiched like that against the Packers. And that fumble in the Super Bowl, that was a tough one. I don't know who holds onto that ball.
I would.
Oh yeah, because after that pick six in 8th grade in
Oh,
Wheeling.
I could tell you that story. That's
Oh yeah, I want video. It's gonna be out there somewhere.
honestly, there is. It literally is out there. I don't know. I don't have the video. It was my friend Drew Mills' mom was in the library of the school, which overlooked the field. She had film of it. I've saw it one time in my life, but I lived it. I don't need to see it again.
But we do.
I walked by that field last time I was back in Wheeling, and you could still hear the cheering, and it's like the ghosts are still there. Like,
If I get a hold of that, Jeff, it's gonna be a 30 for 30. I will turn that into
what
one of
if
the
I
greatest-
told you
Yeah.
that the greatest play ever?
I would spend all the time in the world. You'd never get articles on time because I'm working on my Jeff Hartman 30 for 30.
I don't get articles on time for you anyways.
I know.
No, but seriously, I was not a good football player. I was really small. I was a late bloomer physically, meaning I was real small and skinny. I was the guy that would beat everyone down really fast. I would hit someone and just hang on for dear life until the bigger guys came and tackled him. Like, that was me. The fact that I even made the play, I was almost like unconscious at the time, still boggles my mind. Still boggles my mind. My mom always brings it up, and she says she didn't even get to see it. She jumped up and down and fell. So she didn't even get to see the play.
That's
Oh.
awesome.
George Rice says all 119 fans. You think there were 119 fans at an 8th grade football game? No. And yes, Thomas, it is my Al Bundy story. Thank you very much. And I'm going to take it to my grave.
I'll save my Al Bundy story. I'll save that for another time.
Is yours an actual football story, or
It's
does it
a
have to
football
do with,
story.
like, married with children?
No, it's a football story.
Is your wife Peg? Like, I'm just trying to figure out this.
Oh, now that. Ooh.
Ed O'Neill's best character was by far Kevin O'Shea in Little Giants. Was absolutely the best.
Ed O'Neill was also in The Adventures of Ford Fairlane with Andrew Dice Clay. Very funny.
I've never seen that.
It's a guilty pleasure. It sucks so bad it's awesome.
I can't hear anyone say the word fumble and not immediately in my head think the scene in Little Giants when Ed O'Neill goes, they know the play. Fumble Rooski, fumble Rooski, fumble Rooski. All right, this has been a good show. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a while since we just did a show together.
Yeah, I love it. Let's fire Dave.
Only because I know
he's in the I know he's in the live chat, so I can say that. No, I hope I didn't hurt his feelings because he's one of my best friends in the world.
Eddie Power says Jeff had all the makings of a varsity athlete. Yeah, I was on the golf team and I was a baseball player. That's where my varsity athletics went. after my 8th grade high school or my 8th grade football team.
Frosty
So,
the Bear 69 said Zuzu pedals, and that means that he has seen Adventures of Ford Fairlane.
well, I know Zuzu's pedals. That's a miracle, and it's a Wonderful Life
Yes,
reference.
but the groupie that they thought murdered Vince Neil's character, Vince Neil of Motley Crue was in it. I gotta go find that movie. She was called Zuzu Pedals.
Yeah, there you go. And Ed O'Neill, as Thomas points out, did actually play for the Steelers.
Yep,
Yeah.
one of the final cuts.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Dave's not here to send us out. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it this a shot.
Do you have any final thoughts, or are you good?
You know what? I actually do have a final thought. I'm gonna make
sure.
it quick, though. And my final thought is this: when you have a guy like Patrick Peterson, where you know the criticism when he signed with the Steelers was, "What, I thought he wanted to play for a ring. I thought he wanted a ring." Well, look, he went with the Steelers, so he must not be serious about getting the ring. Now, he had some offers. He had some places where he could have went. He was looking at Cincinnati. He was looking at a few places. He said he would have loved to play in Cincinnati. There are some places that he was looking at. But this is where Mike Tomlin, the way he treats you at a combine, the way he treats you at the Underwear Olympics or at a pro day, this is where Mike Tomlin shines. And this is why, and people want to play for Mike Tomlin. And not just Patrick Peterson said it, these other guys said it. So when you hear that, you've got to realize that there's a lot more to being a coach that happens in stadium.
Couldn't say it better myself. Dave's not here to send us out. What, are you gonna do it?
I don't do it well, but hey, that wasn't good, was it?
We'll see you next week.
Everybody else gets a little tight.